What's going on, fishing freaks? Welcome to the LFG channel again. Glad to have you back here. So the last couple of videos you've seen me and Rob camping out on the shores of Lake Sam Rayburn Reservoir and trying to go after those big female bass. And it's been a grind. We've been really trying to catch them, and we're going up shallow. The fish are literally moving up. There's a lot of buck bass, or what you call male bass, that are moving up to start making beds, and the water is in the low 60s. And many times those females are just a few days or weeks behind, and they'll just be in a little bit deeper water or just hanging out, and they're really hard to catch. It's one of my least favorite times of year to fish. I can remember back years of guiding on Fork where it was incredibly tough to get bites on these particular days, and it can be like a 2-week, maybe even 3-week period where the water temperatures just kind of hovering around that, you know, low 60s, and bass are starting to move up, but the bigger bass are just not aggressive and they're not eating. They go into like a big feeding mode before then, and then they just kind of shut down and they wait for everything to get right to start the spawning process. So this week has been one of those particular weeks, and this day, this last day that me and Rob went out, was a particular hard day. We already showed you guys a lot of that shallow water, catching those buck bass, and that shallow Senko bite, the weightless bite. That is a ultimate technique when the fishing is tough, is throwing that weightless Senko or fluke bait. My neighbor's weed eating his grass right now. There's not even grass growing out here. Come on, man, I'm trying to make a YouTube video over here. So I wanted to do another one of these videos where I kind of walk you guys through the process. Even though we have audio on this trip, the last day ended up kind of being the same similar thing, and we were really just trying to go after those bigger bass, and it didn't work out. Like, we just couldn't get those bigger bites. So we still ended up catching buck bass, but we tried different techniques. So I wanted to walk you guys through that, not show you the same exact thing that we had been catching fish on the first couple of days. We're always trying to learn and do other things. If I know I'm gonna catch them on a certain thing and I've already done a video on that, I don't want to do that again, because I want to learn new techniques and I want you guys to learn more. So anyway, that's what this is about, and here we go, let's get into it.
Oh my God, did that just happen? All right, they're here, they're here.
What's up, guys? We're out here. Me and Rob, we're a little late getting out on the water today because it's been so cold. We weren't exactly excited to get up early. So this nasty cold front came in, and me and Rob are trying to do our best to catch a big fish. So what I'm doing right here is I'm rigging a Carolina rig up. I've got an original size brush hog. This is actually the first soft plastic bait I ever caught a bass on right here. Haven't thrown it in a long time. It was in Rob's boat. I decided to tie it on. Green pumpkin. I'm putting it on a Texas rig, 3/4 ounce weight with a 5/0 offset worm hook. And I'm just gonna drag it around the bottom out here on these points. So these points that we're dragging on, there's actually a couple of good little spawning creeks that go into these little drains right here. And we're dragging our Carolina rigs and our Texas rigs out on these points. There's a lot of grass down there. There's stumps. So we're just trying to bounce it around, and we're sitting in about 20 feet of water. We're casting into about 12 and dragging our way out. We're trying to go as slow as possible and just kind of pop it over any little object we can and just wait to get that big bite. But the big females are just sticking to the bottom, not wanting to bite. It's a grind out here. It's definitely a grind. The pressure is changing, and the whole cold front thing is happening. Rob finally hooks into a donker. We moved up just a little bit. He threw into about 8 feet of water, and he hooked this guy. You know, and it's that same thing that we've been seeing the last couple of days. You move up shallow and you get these little bites, and it's just like they're the little knotheads that are biting. You know, they're not the big ones. So I keep wanting to stay out deep and try to get those big bites, but you know, if we can't resist the temptation, we move up a little bit more shallow and we start getting bites again. And it's like, man, you just want to feel something on the line here. And Rob's actually got a Carolina rig brush hog, a baby brush hog, which is a super good slow fishing technique for this time of year. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there's a couple of weeks at the beginning of the year where the bass settle in and they get very hard to catch, and we're going through these weeks right now. So we gave in, we moved up a little bit more shallow, went into a pocket. I was throwing a spinner bait, the water was so clear in this pocket I decided to put it down and pick up a Keitech swim bait, and I had a 1/4 ounce 5/0 swim bait hook rigged on, and I'm just throwing this thing around some pad stems. Now I had some bigger bites on Rayburn around some pad stems a couple weeks before, so I decided to pick up this bait and try to throw it in those pad stems and see if I can get a big bite. I'm just kind of slow reeling this and just letting that tail thump side to side, and I've got this rigged on braid and a 7-foot heavy action rod, kind of like a broomstick type situation. I'm expecting to get a big bite.
These old beds in here.
Oh God, there's a big one. Oh no. He smoked it. Thought it was a big one. God, hammered it.
I'm going to an old trusty, I'm literally in the middle of almost tying on a underspin.
Oh.
That's actually what I was thinking in my head. I just took off a lipless.
Definitely tie that
There
on.
we go. Good job, little dude.
All right, that's not what I was expecting on the swim bait, but first sign of life back here in the shallows. We moved up a little bit. Got some lily pad stems down there. Looks like
There's a lot.
just, God, it's beautiful.
This water,
So that wasn't the bass that we were looking for, but I decided to keep casting in these pad stems. Maybe there'd be a big one that was starting to move up. This water temperature back here is in the low 60s. We're touching 60 degrees. So, you know, I'm thinking that it might be some big fish starting to move up. It was actually 58 on the main lake. No more bites in there, so we decided to get the heck out of there.
Actually.
So the fishing has sucked so far. A piece of hydrilla right there. Lake is full of grass. This area we're fishing. There's deep grass out here. There's shallow grass. We're just kind of plugging away though. We kind of snuck up in there for a little bit on the shallow stuff. Caught a few fish, but told you guys we were going to commit to trying to catch big fish. We're trying to. Throwing bigger baits. Now we're just going to go looking. We're just going to look on the grass. So the mental game that is going on right now with me and Rob is we are trying to get that big bite. And we've spent the last couple of days fishing shallow and catching these buck bass and having success going slow with a weightless Cinco, but you guys have already seen that. You already know it's a proven technique. It's a go-to during this time of year. And the only thing that's going to result out of that is maybe us catching some fish. Maybe we get a big bite, but you guys have already seen that technique. So I want to show you guys something different. So right now I'm rigging up a Storm swim bait. I believe this is the 4-inch, maybe even the 5-inch. One of my favorite baits for clear water, deep water fishing. It's a good replacement for an A-rig. And I'm going to throw this on this point right here that's got some grass. We literally saw a bass come out of the water right next to the boat on this point. And I said, all right, let's stop and fish this with some swim baits and some other baits. What I'm trying to do here is just slowly reel this thing off the bottom and kind of pull it up off the grass. The grass drops off about 12 feet, so I'm trying to hit those fish. And I can see them on the graph. They're kind of moving around this point. But we get a couple of bites on that, and they're just not eating the bait. They just don't want to bite. And then all of a sudden, Rob gets a big bite on his Carolina rig. It's like a 4 or 5 pounder, and it jumps off.
Rob. I don't even know what to say anymore.
He is pissed right here, and we are both just feeling defeated. We are going so hard, and it's taking so long in between casts and grinding to get these bites. So when we get a bite, we want to get into the boat, and that was the biggest bite by far of the day. So that really sucked. But it was a clue to kind of what was going on here. We just had to slow down around these big main lake and secondary points going into these pockets with the Carolina rig. So I tied on a Carolina rig as well, and I'm just trying to drag it, you know, in that 12 to 15 foot range, trying to hit those fish that are starting to move up. I ended up switching up from a Senko to actually fishing a brush hog as well, like Rob on the Carolina rig. But you know, baby brush hogs and Senkos are great. He's catching a bass on a baby brush hog right here, and I noticed he was definitely getting more bites on that fluorocarbon main line. I was throwing 50-pound braid as a main line with a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, and he was getting more bites for sure using the fluorocarbon main line, which I'm a big believer in high pressure situations. I rarely throw braid as a main line, but I was using it in this instance. I ended up getting a few bites as well and boated this fish right here. Decent little fish, but just not what we're looking for here. This is just really healthy, and you know, it's a male bass, but it's just small. We're looking for these bigger bites, and we just keep getting these stupid ones. These stupid ones that are biting on this really tough day. But it's obvious the bigger bass are just locked up. They're not going to eat today. But that is a pretty fish. That's a cool shot too. I like that sun. The sun going down with the shiny bass scales, and then I gave it a little smell. It was a nice smell to that fish. A little honey grass smell. It was beautiful. Beautiful moment. I had to savor it. I had to hold on to that one a little extra longer because I hadn't caught many that day. So we really tried catching some bigger fish, just slowing down. And it was obvious that the males were moving up in the afternoon as the water was warming up, and we were kind of starting this whole process over again, like the first day we started our journey, where it started to warm up and the male bass started to move shallow later in the day. The second day they were up there, and then that cold front hit us, and then they moved back out. So we're literally just seeing this whole cycle happen again, and it's frustrating when we're trying to catch these big fish. They're just not, the weather is not stable enough for them to really come up and stay up.
It's a tough day. We need some dabs. Dab it up, guys. Cheers.
So after getting very little bites, we'll try a little spike it. Always like a little spike it on there. Watermelon, green pumpkin, watermelon red, a little spike it this time of year. That just really looks like a bluegill. But in this instance, it didn't really help. So that's it, guys. I hope you learned something from this video. If you found it helpful, again, let me know in the comments. And make sure to stay tuned for the next video. I asked you guys to send in questions to ask me and Stephanie, aka Ocean Spoon Girl. Had them back in town, and boy, you guys had some good ones. It got a little interesting, got a little dicey, so you may want to stay tuned for that. But thanks for stopping by the channel, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.